All right. It's an extraordinary world at the moment that we live in. There's a old Chinese curse that my next guest will know very well called "May you live in interesting times." An old Chinese curse, and I don't think you could get more interesting on a geopolitical context, quite frankly, than just at the moment, and also in New Zealand politics as well. Joining us to talk about that, his most recent trip to the United States of America, the New Zealand First War on Woke is the New Zealand First Party leader and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Winston Peters, and he joins us now. How are you, mate?
Very good. There's also that Chinese saying, be careful what you wish for.
Yes, well, did we wish for the world that we're looking at the moment, Winston?
No, we didn't, but that's the world we live in, and our job is to make sure that we understand what's happening with great clarity, and rather than just tell people or others what we'd like to happen, face what is happening and do our best in that circumstance.
Absolutely. Listen, I'll come and talk to you about the New Zealand First Conference in a second, but if I might just start on your job as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I think there's universal appreciation that you're doing a bloody good job there, Winston, I have to say. You always have done, and you're certainly representing New Zealand at the highest level with a professionalism that, frankly, is to your credit. But can I just take you through a couple of issues first of all? So let's deal with your trip most recently to the United States. You met the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. No doubt you talk trade. Do you expect New Zealand to get caught up in the trade or the tariff problems that are afflicting other nations as well?
Well, that was a threat, and the narrow, if I could say it that way, purpose was to do our best to ensure we didn't get caught up in it.
Will we?
Look, it's unwise to make predictions, but we'll do our very best to ensure that we can escape what other countries are currently suffering from, or the uncertainty of that. We've got a great record, parallel with others, of course, and our point was to say, look, we've been a very patient country in terms about our trading relationships with you. Ulysses S. Grant was the president when we first asked, and that was in 1870, and they were quite shocked by that.
No, I do get a sense that they don't appreciate a lot of their own history sometimes. But is that when we asked for a free trade agreement with the United States, way back in 1870?
Well, for a trading relationship, and then, of course, in 1939, the then Labour government asked for it as well. So I said, all these years on, and since we have totally opened up our economy, whether we liked it or not, 41 years ago, then just perhaps we're the kind of country you could respect.
Yeah, okay. They haven't granted exemptions to anybody else. The idea they're going to grant exemptions to New Zealand, you can hope, I guess, but you wouldn't be hoping with expectation, would you?
Well, the reality is we've just got on aluminium, or aluminum as they call it, and New Zealand steel. Those were the places where tariffs have been placed on even since 1999, first of all. So it's been there for a long time. But on the rest, we've done very, very well, and they're the fastest growing economy in terms of American and New Zealand's connection is the fastest growing over the last 7 years of all the economies we're dealing with. So it's a good story, and we've also made the point that we look south of the equator, and look where you are, way up there on the east of the Pacific, and us in the middle, and countries going west. You've got a few friends that you need to look after or understand how important they are. We're one of them. I just make the point too, in two world wars, we turn up 2 years before you both times.
Yes, that's
and
right.
we lost more dollars than 2 years. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we followed them to Vietnam as well.
But a shared history lesson matters.
Yeah, no, you're right. Listen, can I just also, on the issue of Gaza and Israel, because that conflict seems as if it started again, what is our official position as a country on the Gaza-Israel conflict?
Well, we were appalled at the terrorism on October 7 that led to this and 1,200 people losing their lives and hostages being taken. But then we look forward and see, well, how can this carry on the way it is? And we've always had a two-state solution. We've had that across the political divide of political parties for decades, and that is still our position. We've spoken to the Egyptians, we've spoken to the Palestinian Authority, we've spoken to the biggest country with the Islamic population, singularly speaking, Indonesia, spoken to the president of Turkey. They understand our position, unlike some of the protesters here who keep on screaming one side of the story.
Yes, because so when you're talking about a two-state solution, you're talking about a homeland or a country for Palestine and Palestinians and assured borders and security for Israel as well. Is that correct?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah. Okay. And that's been there's been a long-standing view. Netanyahu gives some indication that he doesn't.
Look, can I just say, if you read the Book of Islam, if you read the Quran, I think Israel is mentioned 49 times. Palestine is not.
Right. No. But nonetheless, despite that, you're suggesting that Palestinians deserve their own country to call their own Palestine. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So just on that issue, I see that Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has said that he's not in favour of a Palestinian homeland. Given that intransigence from the Israeli Prime Minister, is there any possibility of any breakthrough anytime soon?
Well, in the end, Netanyahu will have to hear what the rest of the world says, in particular what the United States says. And often when you are quoting another country's stance, people start giving their view of that other country and its leader. And it might sound insignificant, but it's not. But the United States is for a two-state solution as well. And that's going to be a compelling influence in the outcome.
All right. And the other one, obviously, the other big issue, and it's happened in your and my lifetime, is the rise of China. From being the sleeping giant that it was to literally being a giant that's now bestriding the world, massive economic power, wading into the South Pacific as well. They are our greatest trading partner, so we've got a sort of interesting position to be in. And yet you've expressed recently a view that the concern, I guess, at Chinese expansion into South Pacific. Why are you concerned?
Well, I'm concerned only in this context. I've been there recently to speak to the Chinese government and my counterpart to point out to him we have long had quite a special and early arrangement over other countries. That would require, if that sort of arrangement was to hold true, that we keep our counsel in accepting when matters concern us. And so if there are initiatives which we are concerned about, then we need to speak openly and tell them what we think. And I did ask, why were you sending military naval craft into the Pacific, into the Tasman Sea, so to speak, and firing off armaments? Were you trying to find out whether the armaments operate differently in the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere? Or the real question is, why didn't you tell us? Why did our information have to come from civil aviation aircraft? And, there was no explanation from him on that, but I made the point. Surely if we were in a special relationship like you assert, then notice to New Zealand would have been part of that.
What was their reply to that? Was there no reply at all?
I think the answer was there was a frustration, I think, on his part to the extent that some of us thought maybe the Chinese military didn't even tell the Chinese government. Now, that's most extraordinary circumstance given that's China. But there was a frustration. And I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying we asked, look, surely in this circumstance, you should have told us. Surely in the case of the Cook Islands, in which we've got this unique and special relationship, and your knowledge of this situation would be compellingly complete, why didn't you speak to us first?
But having said that to do with China, you would have expected the Cook Islands, who are in this unique relationship with New Zealand, Winston, to have also told us, in fact, that would be their primary responsibility. They didn't. how's the relationship now between New Zealand and the Cook Islands government?
Well, it's best, Michael, to describe it. You could have all the analytics and all the vowel sandwiches to try and describe this, but I think it's best like a rather big family where some of the younger ones are not appreciative of what the older ones in the family have done for them.
Yes, yes. Well, we've both had children like that, probably. All right. Now, your State of the Nation speech on Sunday at the New Zealand First Conference has been characterised by the media as a war on woke, that you've entered the cultural war and on the side of, well, basically on the side of normalcy. Would it be fair to describe your speech that way, Winston?
No, I've been talking about this all my career. I had someone who worked for me once who phrased it as sort of the sickly white liberals and their fellow cultural travellers. You know who that person was?
Yeah, I
Well, I'm
certainly
talking
do.
to him.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
nothing has changed on that, and I came into politics in a European seat because I didn't believe that this paternalistic reverse racism that says, look, you can't make it as a Maori unless I give you some help, was anything other than racism. And that's why I've kept that position all my career and all my life, because in the end, if I look at the sporting and the entertainment and every other field, Maori are at the top of the world when they've competed,
Mm.
excepting in this one area, they keep on saying, you won't make it unless we help you. Now, I've said over and over again, that's inverse racism. I have experienced it, but it's never deterred me. And more importantly, I've never complained about it, because the moment you start giving yourself a mattress, so to speak, or a canopy of protection that's artificial, then you're self-defeating in your own purpose. Never admitted it and realized we could bust through this. I was always, inspired by the American Civil Rights Movement, where they set out not to start their own institutions, but to bust through the doors of the best institutions in the country, which happened to be white. They kept their eye on the prize. They got there and ended up with a black American president and now a vice president. Now, it's a long, long story, but it's one that we, our country, could get to far more quickly if we understood the same narrow focus of purpose. And all this diversity and equity and inclusiveness and what have you is there being put out by the bureaucracy, supported by some political parties, and staring them in the face are more Maori in cabinet, the highest part of cabinet ever, and more Maori in parliament than even the percentage of Maori in the population. Those are the facts. But of course, they don't want those sort of facts. They want to have the exclusive policies they run, which have this feature. They benefit the few at the cost of the many, in whose name they make all these demands. And the Maori world is full of it.